All right, good morning, everybody. These things that are going on right now are they're to be expected. It's nothing new. It's the way the world has been for a long time. We've had quite a respite. But I guess the powers that be don't like the fact that there's freedom and liberty come back to America. They want to drag us back down again. I'm just so thankful to God that I live in a rural area. I don't have the worries of city life. But all of this is really, psychologically, it's taking a toll on all of us. To talk for a minute about the difference between conservative ideology and leftist ideology. I use the word leftist and not liberal, and not progressive either, even though they call themselves progressives. They're not progressives, they're regressives. So the only term I can think of is leftist. Really, the truth is, as I've been saying for a long time, the American right are the true liberals. In Europe, left and right means something different. But in America, left means tyranny, and right means liberty. And that's the difference. Whereas in Europe, pretty much left and right both mean tyranny. There's no true European concept of liberty the way that America has. That's why I'm never going to move to the state of Israel, because they're a European-style country. When Messiah comes, it's a different story. We're not talking about that, even though that despite everything, I still wait every day for the coming of the Messianic era. But again, that's not what we're talking about today. So I like to hear both sides of stories. But this is not a left versus right issue here. People are trying to make it into that when it really isn't, as far as the larger picture. But it is a right versus wrong issue. And a lot of people can be wrong. Just because one person is wrong doesn't mean the other person is right. Everybody could be wrong. But I think a major thing that we should have in mind right now with these issues, I want to address for a moment. So I'm so happy and thankful that the president has declared Antifa a terrorist organization. I saw someone said, how did the president declare those who are fighting fascism as terrorists? They're not fighting fascism. They're fascists. They can't hide behind calling themselves anti-fascists. I just hope and pray, we talk about this contact tracing. Let's follow the books. Let's follow the money trail. Every bit of property damage that's gone on this week. Let's go right back to the top. Let's make civil trials against George Soros and also criminal case against him. This man should be locked up in prison for the rest of what we hope is not too much longer of a life. For how he's attacked not only America but many other countries around the world. And just like Antifa can't hide behind calling themselves anti-fascists when they're really fascists, George Soros can't hide behind some claim of Jewish identity when he's an atheist, and Judaism is a religion and not a race. And not only that, but he admits that he was raised as an anti-Semite, and now he calls himself Jewish, and claims are that when you talk about against an evil man like George Soros, somehow you're anti-Semitic. It doesn't work that way. And this is what I really need to bring out. And this is what all of this is about right now. So I got from Avaz, left-wing organization, an email. Didn't read the whole thing, but I read a lot of it, skimmed through most of it. And they're talking about it's not enough just to be non-racist, we have to be anti-racist. Well, what is racism? And they're saying being anti-racist means whatever their left-wing agenda is, meaning they bring up, all right, something that's decent, even though it really doesn't mean anything. Say it's not enough to be non-racist, you have to be anti-racist. Fine, I'm anti-racist. But what's racism? Racism is a double-edged sword. For someone to say, oh, just let them riot, that's the most racist thing you could say. Because it's a bigotry of low expectations, for one thing. And it's dividing people into races. This is the issue of identity politics. Identity politics is racism. To go and say, oh, I won't mention the race, but because I don't want someone to take this out of, but there are people who say, oh, just let them do this. This is what they do. This is their culture. This is it. You're racist for not letting them riot or whatever it is. No, it's the opposite. It's racist to believe that this is okay for anybody of any race to commit these types of acts. There's no excuse for it. And to expect that, to have these low expectations, to pretty much expect that, oh, that's what they're going to do, that's what they do, that's racist. No. There is no they, first of all. People are people. I don't care what color you are. This whole thing that Joe Biden could get away with saying, well, if you have trouble deciding between me and Trump, well, you ain't black. First of all, to use ain't. That's also a bigotry of low expectations. It's the same nonsense where Hillary Clinton would start using some kind of a weird Southern drawl, when she's talking to black audiences, and Al Gore would do kind of the same thing. And I notice sometimes my inflections change depending who I'm talking to, but and it's unconscious. But that's just weird, and it's really, again, but for me, it's not like a racial issue. I don't start talking, Ebonics when I'm talking to an African American person. You know, generally, if I'm talking to someone who has an accent, I'll be honest, the accent starts to come out in the way I speak. You know, I see it like when I talk to the imam. You know, I start getting this like Turkish accent. I don't know, but anyway, I'm talking at work. But this bigotry of low expectations, this idea that it's two sides. There's the bigotry of low expectations. It's the idea that, oh, that's what they do. They riot. No, they don't. That's ridiculous. What kind of nonsense is that? Oh, they riot. First of all, I don't know how many of these rioters, especially these Antifa people behind their masks, who are spraying, you know, capitalism is murder and free Palestine and all this stuff. And again, I know that could sound like a bigotry of low expectations. But if that sounds like that to you, that's just because you think that there's something good in saying nonsense like that. You know, capitalism, first of all, is the number one thing that has made the world a better place, other than, you know, in the fastest amount of time. You know, other than revealed faith and Abrahamic ethics. So, you know, everything other than capitalism is murder. Poverty has gone down in the world on an incredible scale because of capitalism. And what has destroyed the economy now, what's bringing people back is big government. Government saying, "Oh, you gotta shut down your stores." Why isn't it enough just to wear a mask? Why do we have to shut down the stores? Why do we have to do all these things? Because it's not about disease. It's about control. All of this stuff, it's too good to be true to say that this isn't all planned. But we can still overcome, you know. We shall overcome, right? Like the song. This is a civil rights issue again. And we have to be fighting not only for civil rights, but against civil wrongs. And to go and say that, you know, oh, it's to be expected that these people are going to riot. That's racist. No, you have to treat everybody the same. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care about any of that. You know, George Floyd's brother, he's a hero. This man he should be, you know, he should be able to go and speak on every radio show. I hope all of my favorite, you know, I can see Sean Hannity getting him on the radio, if the powers that be will let it happen. And I hope, like I said, that the president invites the Floyd family to White House, does some kind of a memorial, does something. But when I say that we shall overcome, I mean, they can't do this to us. George Soros can't do this to us. Nobody's going to get away with this. You know, George Floyd's brother said very wisely, he said, why aren't they stopping us? Because we're destroying our own stuff, and that's what they want. And who is they? Who is they? Those powers that be. These racists like George Soros, who want to control the masses and see a demographic power. That's why they call it democratic socialism, because that's what they care about. Putting people into groups. Controlling them, being these puppet masters. It's not a conspiracy theory. We see it happening in front of our own eyes. That people are being manipulated. And they don't have to be. And it's not the majority of people. But then people, and no one should dare think that groups like Black Lives Matter represent the African American community. Of course Black lives matter, but all lives matter. And I know it's cliche, but the point is that, and then they're saying, oh, you're against Black Lives Matter. It means you don't think Black Lives Matter. Of course I think Black Lives Matter. I think all lives matter. But I think like how Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we should be judged by the content of our character and not by the color of our skin. For people who go and loot and riot, I don't care if you're white or black or brown or purple or green. You're demonstrating the content of your character and casting judgment upon yourself that this content of your character is wanting and lacking. It shouldn't matter the color of the skin. I think I've mentioned many times there was a movie made, I think in 1947, called Don't Be a Sucker. It's on YouTube. It's a short film, maybe 20 minutes long. And the punchline of this is that the most important minority is the minority of one. And again, that's the ideology of the American conservative right, to say that, which is often called the rugged individualism. But it's that what matters is the individual. And that's why the Republican Party is still the party of Lincoln, and this Bubba Misa that the party's changed is utter nonsense. Because the Democrats are still the party of big government, which means controlling other people, which is what slavery is all about, and identity politics, which is racism. And the Republican Party is still the party of liberty and freedom and caring about the individual and protecting the individual from democracy, protecting the minority from the tyranny of the majority, protecting people who are African American from these looters, protecting the church where Abraham Lincoln prayed from terrorists. Somehow people are more upset that President Trump went to visit St. John's Church than they are that the church where Abraham Lincoln prayed was firebombed, was attacked by vandals, was on fire for some time. And it's not a white-black issue. Yes, it's a horrible thing that happened to George Floyd. He didn't deserve to be killed. But we gotta recognize what the real issue here. It's not white and black. It's right and left, and it's right and wrong. And it's the attacks from the left against all people of all colors, white, black, everybody, are being attacked by the left, whether it's the Chinese communists who are bringing fentanyl and things into our country that was in this poor man's body. He was being poisoned, again, by the left. He part of the reason why he died was because the communists sent this stuff to our country, just like they sent this virus, all these things, and all these things are all they're all together. It's so I don't know what else to say, except we shall overcome. They're not going to convince us that somehow we are wrong for supporting the party of Lincoln, that somehow we are wrong for wanting there to be freedom for all people. Somehow you ain't black if you support Trump That kind of nonsense, that kind of racism is what's causing all this. And to somehow blame President Trump for all of this garbage when he's the one who's stopping it, he's the one who's fixing this stuff. Much worse stuff happened under Obama, but the media didn't play it up. We can't let this happen. We cannot let our country be destroyed by communists. We cannot let communists manipulate race and all these things that are and convince people. And I think people, they're waking up. They're realizing not that the Republicans have all the answers, maybe, which is true. Republicans don't have all the answers. But the Democrats are the ones, for the most part, and again, there are a few good Democrats, I guess. Very few. Most of them have left the Democrat Party. But that the Democrats are the ones who are victimizing this country, who are victimizing, who are the African American community, and using these horrible tragedies as an excuse, as a tool. They're manipulating people, and it has to stop. If we are anti-racist, that means, yes, on one hand, I'll be the first to admit and the first to agree that there are innocent people who are in prison, and many of them are in prison. I'm saying of those very few innocent people that are in prison, many of them are there because of some kind of bigotry. I mean, I've seen it with people in my own community. I know two men who I believe to be innocent. There was zero evidence. If they committed those crimes, I agree, they deserve to go to prison for a long time. But they were both convicted with zero evidence, and I believe it was because they had beard and payas and a black yarmulke and a shtreimel on Shabbos, you know. And of course, once in a while, things like that do happen to the African American community, to members of the African American community, and so too, I recognize that there is, I don't like this term social justice because it's a loaded term, but there is a problem that has to be fixed in these communities. But I believe that the communities can fix them themselves. They don't need us to be lecturing them and telling them, oh, this is the way that you're going to do this. But the biggest problem is the bigotry of low expectations. This idea of, oh, that's what these people do, whatever, you know. And you know, a lot of people saying the answer is education. Education is important. It has to be school choice. But the biggest cure for all this, and I don't care what religion you follow, but the biggest cure is positive spirituality. I say positive spirituality because there is a lot of negative spirituality, and it's not the issue of which religion. I think you can be you know, a noble heathen. I think you can be, you know, in a religion that I really disagree with strongly, and still use that as a tool to inspire you to turn your life around and be a better person. But and so too, I think there are people who abuse good religion, people who abuse my religion. You know, we have bad apples. You know, when I'm defending these two men that I believe to be innocent, that doesn't mean that people who are actually victims of these types of crimes should have no voice. I think anybody who commits those types of crimes should go to jail for a long time, And I think that the people who are victims should have a voice, need to have a voice, but not everybody tells the truth. And in certain rare occasions, innocent people go to prison. I don't know what else to say, though. We have to end bigotry, we have to end racism, and we have to be anti-racist, yes. But let's not turn anti-racism into something that it's not. Anti-racism means we treat everybody the same. And if somebody commits a crime, no matter what race, no matter what religion they are, they should receive punishment that's fitting for the crime. Now, I don't know if locking people up in prison is always the best thing, but I'll tell you the truth. For a long time, I felt that the prison system is not the answer. Now that I work in the prison system, I see it can be the answer if you have both the right type of offender who really wants to clean up their lives, and the right type of programs in prison. I'm proud to work in a prison where we have the right type of programs, where we are doing the most to help people turn their lives around. That's all I got to say right now. But this bigotry of low expectations, this idea that that's what they do, let them do that, that's their culture, that's racist. No, anybody of any race can be an upstanding citizen, an upstanding member of society, and we're not being imperialistic by telling people you're not of any race and any color. No, you're not allowed to be violent. And that should be common sense. By this point in history, 99.9% of people know that. And it's just a few, I don't know, harebrained, I don't know, people who just are either being manipulated or whatever. People might be suffering from mental illness. There's a lot of things, and I'm all for making excuses, and being dan l'kaf, judging people favorably. But this is too much already, and to me the whole thing is just astroturfing. This is not real. This is not organic. This is all planned. Somebody brought the bricks there. We know what we're talking about. And we're talking about contact tracing again. Let's trace everything back to where it came from. Let's prosecute George Soros both civilly and criminally. This man has to be put away. This man has to face the consequences of his decades and decades of evil. And I hope, somehow the Justice Department can prosecute this man, can put all the pieces together and prosecute this man for aiding and abetting terrorism. There's no excuse anymore. Alright, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you all later. Take care.